I completely support that. What bothers me is that if we start the project with that process, that there is sort of a moral commitment to finish the process, and it would be, I believe the public expectation would be that if we don't get enough money, but we get some money, that at that point we're going to be completely funding or expected to fund the rest of it through the general budget or some budgeting in the future. And assuming it goes forward, it's possible that Washougal residents will be divided for a while regarding whether it was worth their tax dollars or not, depending on how the art turns out. And in time, we'll likely find that many are thankful for the distinctive flavor that it gives to the city, and I appreciate that. But my opposition has nothing to do with the relative merit of the art itself. My opposition is simply centered on the question of whether it is the proper role of our city government to subsidize art. And at this time especially, our city should be focused on essential priorities. And that would be my reasoning for opposing this, although I'm very thankful that it is a good vehicle for gathering donations. It should people be excited to see this go forward. I yield the floor.
Mr. Mayor, I support this agenda bill. I do believe that the intent of the Parks Board, and it's stated well here, is that we are going to open this up to the citizens. So if the citizens feel like this is a worthy project, then it will be funded by the citizens. And I think that we will be pleased, my hope is that we'll be pleased to find that this will indeed happen. And so this would be democracy or, community development at its best. And while I appreciate Councilmember Delavar's concern that there would be an expectation should we not meet our commitment, I think that we're all we all have the understanding with the budget constraints upon us for 2010, 2011, and into the future, that that would not happen. And my belief is that should we not attain the contributions that are required, that those contributions would be returned to the entities that provided them. Would be basically a vote of the citizens. Do you want this? Do you not? And I like that approach.
Yeah, potentially a vote with dollars.
Mm-hmm. A vote with dollars.
Question?
As I understand it, the city's assuming the obligation to maintain these artworks on the docks in perpetuity?
Once they're installed, that's my understanding.
Okay.
They also serve the purpose of the pilings, to have longer life for the pilings as a cap over the top of them.
Okay. We don't have any figures on to what degree that'll extend the life of the pilings?
I don't. Typically you'll see caps, either steel or aluminum over the top to have more life for the pilings, but they do serve the purpose of putting a cap to extend the life. I don't have specific years.
I didn't really expect you to have that in your shirt pocket, but you have never failed to answer any of my questions, so I thought I'd take a shot.
But the actual art pieces, that would be the maintenance and repair of the city once it becomes part of the dock.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, if I may continue just briefly. I also rise in opposition to this project. I share, not Congressman, Councilman Delavar's concern. Getting ahead of myself here, getting ahead of you. Although I don't share his reluctance to oppose this because assuming the responsibility for maintaining this thing in perpetuity poses an obligation which strikes me as going against the grain of what we're having to do right now in terms of looking at the budget to maintain the staff and the facilities and all the other things we need to provide basic services for this community. And we're experiencing difficulty in doing that this year. I can't imagine what next year is going to be like, and I can't see beyond next year. What little I do see in the future doesn't look bright. So I also will be voting to oppose this particular project. Thank you.
Any other council comments? From my seat, I certainly appreciate the candor and the comments from both council members in the way that they may vote this evening. I would side with Councilmember Coaston that I certainly believe that we can understand and pass the measure with the understanding, and staff having the understanding, and the park staff having the understanding that if the funding is not completely there, that it is something that would be revisited before anything should move forward on there. Certainly does not negate any of Councilmember Shoemaker's concerns as far as future maintenance of the pylons themselves, but I think we're already on the hook for that portion of it, and this is just another piece of it versus what is standing there today, just as we're on the hook for other items within the parks or anywhere else in the city that we've built, whether they be streets, whether they be fire hydrants or anything else. We certainly have the obligation for the maintenance of those. This item to me stands out significantly, and that's why I'm taking the time to speak on it from the chair. I believe you have a Parks Board and a foundation and a staff, and at least at this point, a segment of the community who is stepping forward and suggesting another route to go rather than the city paying for these improvements themselves as a public artwork project. And I certainly would not want to diminish their efforts in any way of attempting to find another way other than the city paying for a project. So I would just ask you to keep that under consideration. Any other comments from council? Rod?
Just that I have to agree with you and Molly as well about the fact that if we do maintenance on the pipes themselves, we would do a general maintenance on those at that time. But other than that, I think we're going to stand alone down there and weather the storms.
John?
I also agree with Molly and Rod on this project. And the reason I do is I have always stood firm in the belief that when our, whether it's the Planning Commission, whether it's the Parks Board, bring forward a proposal to use the money that is set aside for them to be able to bring these kind of proposals to us, as a volunteer organization, as a citizen organization, this is where they would like to see some of that money spent. This is not money out of the general fund. This is money that has to go to parks. Personally, I would much rather see this money go to Hathaway and to work towards what we're doing down there. But this is what the Parks Board would like to do and like to see. And because they are a volunteer organization that give a lot of time, this is what they've thought through, and they would like to have as their contribution to the pedestrian tunnel and the walkway and so forth. So that's all I have to say.
And I by the way, once again, I do appreciate the work that the Parks Board has done, and the fact that they allocated 2 years' worth of discretionary funds towards one project, and that says quite a bit about their dedication to the project. I'm positive that it will quite possibly produce a very distinctive flavor for Washougal and be seen as a great landmark, especially since you can see it as you drive by on 14. And I